All right, so this is a sanding tool. You're going to have one in your box, and there's two staples at one end. That's so you can rip off a sheet of sanding paper as it gets really used. I'd like it if you ask permission before you rip it off to a new sheet. So it's kind of like a post-it pad. There's lots of different sanding papers beneath. Okay, and what you can see that I'm doing right there is I'm taking the pencil, and it's already been sharpened, but I'm kind of scraping it against the pad, and I'm moving the pencil back and forth. And as I'm doing that, I'm rotating the pencil. That's going to ensure that I sand it down evenly so that I have a nice fine point. So you can get into like nitty gritty details, like doing the eyes, if you want to get eyelashes, it's perfect for that. See how nice and sharp that is? You can make a really fine point by sanding the edge. So we're looking at an egg here, and the egg is positioned upside down. We're looking at that so we can get an idea in our minds of what a head looks like. A head is just very similar to an egg. It's kind of oval shaped, wider on the top, narrower as it goes towards the chin. So we're going to get some measurements. We are going to get the height of the head. So here's what the length or height measures at. It's about 7 inches, making 2 little marks there. And you're doing this about midway in your paper. So we're going to draw a vertical line. That's the vertical line we've been drawing as kind of a guideline to separate the face into 2 equal halves. Because this face is facing front, it's going to be symmetrical. So what happens on one side happens on the other. So I've gone off camera here, and I've actually just measured from the reference and transferred that measurement, citing it, and pinching off at the edge, the length. So I've just held my finger there, made 2 little marks, and there you go. Boom. There's the measurement for the width of the face. So right now you should have a height and a width. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm going back to that first measurement that we did, the 7 inches, and I'm going to find the halfway point. So it should be at 3.5 inches. You can eyeball this. I eyeball things, but I just wanted to show you how you can do it with a ruler. You will draw in that line, that horizontal line, lightly. So this is the line that effectively divides the face into half horizontally. That horizontal line that we just drew, that's going to be the eye line. The eyes can be found halfway in the head. If you're looking at the top of the head to the chin divided in half, there's the eye line where the eyes go. So now that we have the height and we have the width, what we're going to do is we're going to get the overall shape of the head. And you want to think here about the egg shape. You also want to refer to your reference picture, to that image you're looking at. Keep in mind, wider at the top, narrower as it goes down. And I'm citing angles. Whenever I have my pencil at an angle or when I go off screen, I'm comparing my pencil angle to the angle of, like, say, the jaw. And you just want to make sure, like, the chin on one side is the same measurement on one side as the other because it's symmetrical. And this is a gesture. So it's a loose drawing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you're going to be doing it really light. So I realize when I draw, I correct a lot. That's why it's important to start out very light so you're not committing. The lighter you draw, the easier it'll be to correct something, and it'll also make your form look more three-dimensional. So I'm skipping ahead here a little bit. I also did a very light suggestion of the hair, but that's not set in stone. It's just a suggestion. Right now what I'm doing is I'm getting the neck, and I went off camera and I measured the neck using citing. So I took my pencil, lined it up to the edge of the neck, pinched it off at the end, and just transferred that over. The neck is something you don't want to get too skinny or too wide. It's important that you compare with your photograph and you really look at the individual you're drawing. Some people have wider necks. It also depends on the age of the person too. Little suggestion of the shoulders as well. I was citing the angle for those two. In a moment, we're going to look at a reference picture that divides the face up into thirds from the hairline to the chin. That's going to be a measurement we're going to use. And there it is. We're looking at a Da Vinci painting there. So I worked a little bit off camera trying to get those dividing lines. I'm just going to show you quickly what I've done here. So I put a hairline in. The hairline is about 1.5 inches down from the top of the head. And then I divided from the hairline to the chin into thirds. So these are equal thirds. So there's the top third, middle third, and then the bottom third. Perfect. So the top third right there, that's going to be the eyebrow line. You can see I actually wrote eyebrow there. Kind of a unibrow at the moment. The bottom third is a nose. That's why I've written the word nose there, so that you know and I know too. There it is again. Top third, middle third, bottom third. Okay, so now we're actually going to go to the nose. And if you divide from the bottom of the nose to the chin into thirds, you get the mouth. So there's 1/3, 2/3, and then there's a chin. So the mouth is on the top third. In a moment, we'll be moving on to the eyes. So we'll actually start with the space in between the two eyes. And you notice on here, you can fit one eye in between two eyes. So it's the same width as one eye, usually can fit between the two eyes. So I just measured the reference, what the distance is between the two eyes there, and transferred it. And I'm taking that measurement again, citing it, moving it over, putting my finger there so I get a little mark. You just want to make sure that your eyes are equal. There you go. Double checking. It's always important to double check your measurements. Check against the reference. Check against one eye versus the other. And I'm here trying to draw a light guideline to get the height. There are two guidelines, one on the top, one on the bottom. This is going to kind of make it look like an anime character for the moment, but they're just guidelines. And I'm double checking the height of the eye. So I was looking at the reference, measuring that, double checking it. I worked a little bit off camera here to get the shape of the eyes. The left eye and the right eye should match. And to get the eyebrows, I cited the eyebrows. Just want to remind you that the arch of the eyebrows is not in the middle. It's off a little bit closer towards the ears. And I use the guideline at the top. That's why there's a line on top to make sure that my eyebrows are even. One's not higher than the other. So I just lightly outline the shapes. Again, not 100% committed to these shapes. They're just to get a guideline, just to get a basic sense of the features in the face. So now we're going to go in and work a little bit on defining the bridge of the nose here. So remember, the bridge of the nose is the narrow part of the nose, the part that connects into the eye socket, kind of leans towards the eyebrows there. And you don't want to get too much line for the nose. We're just getting a little bit. So I'm measuring the nose on the reference, the width of the nose. Usually the width of the nose is about the same length as an eye. You can check that against yourself. Not always true, but true for a lot of people. So it's always good to look at your model and understand that they're an individual, so they may not always subscribe to all these proportion rules. So there's the brackets on the outside of the nose, kind of both curving in. And you can see those brackets are above the nose line. I'm just going to suggest the ball of the nose. The ball of the nose is the tip of the nose. It does kind of look like a semi-sphere there. Remember, most of the nose is going to be done with shading. There's some nice shadowing on her left side. So now going in, drawing that nostril. It's her right nostril that we're drawing. We're actually going to ignore the other nostril because it's in a nice form shadow that's turning into a cast shadow. We're going to articulate that with shading rather than outlining it. So you only have to draw one nostril. That nostril is slightly more open than the nose that we drew in class. So you just have to realize that it's not a full circle. It's more of like an oval. It's a little bit distorted. Okay, so you saw me draw 2 lines straight down from the middle of the eye. That's usually on most people about the width of the mouth. So if you were to draw a line straight down from your eye on either side, that's about the width of the mouth on average for most people. Her mouth is a little bit shorter than that. That's why it's good to always double check. But those guidelines can still help us to figure out like, oh, how far out does the mouth actually go? The mouth is definitely wider than the nose. You just want to keep in mind that the upper lip is shaped differently than the bottom lip. There's kind of 2 hills present. And I cite the angles for the left side of the upper lip and the right side just to make sure I've got those angles right. It took me a while to draw this mouth. I actually am going to redraw it a couple of times. But that's why it's good to go light. Don't commit to anything. Don't stress out if it's not looking perfect at this stage. You can always ask for help, but I'm always adjusting my own drawing too. Okay, so here's the eyes, eyebrows, nose, mouth, neck, a little bit of the shoulders. Now what we're going to work on is the ears. I know, ears from the front, right? Hard. Except for you have some cool guidelines. So if you see there, like I went from the eyebrow straight across, made a little mark, down to the nose, make a line straight across horizontally. So the ear fits neatly in between the eyebrows and the nose. So you can see that. So usually a little bit longer. There you go. Longer than most people think. And we're drawing these from the side, so they're going to look foreshortened, so they're narrow. These are not sticking out very far. And again, they're loose, they're gestural. If you need to move one a little bit, you can. It's not the end of the world. Okay, so I'm lightly moving the hairline a little bit further in on the face there. People always look like aliens until the hair's on, just FYI. Same with the eyebrows. All right, so that's where we're going to stop.